Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to save you money and save the planet. I'm going to give you 5 ways to use packaging in your art. So don't throw it away until you watch this video. So these are the cellophane plastic wrappers. This one came from 6x6 stencils that I got. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to use these in my art studio. So I'm taking out the contents. Now the insert, I'm actually going to use these. I am going to, this part that I've cut off, I can use as collage papers and a mixed media. And this part I can use in the back of my stencils when I store them in the scrapbooks. Now what about these plastic wrappers? You know the ones. Everything is put in it. They're sticky on the one side with the flap and they're hanging on the display. Well, first off, I want to cut that display part off. I want to make it square. And the best way of using that, although you could use any of the ways I showed, is to use an X-Acto knife and cut it off. I'm using a metal ruler there, and then this part, the sticky flap that always gets caught in everything, I'm just going to cut that off. So that little bit on the top and little bit on the bottom goes out. Now I have a plastic envelope. I think you know where I'm going with this. Cut off the end that they use for hanging, and then cut off that sticky part that just gets in the way, leaving us with plastic envelopes that you can use to store product. Now this part that I took out, I can put back in. That's going to give stability to this envelope and allow me to store stuff in front of it and behind it, further organizing what I put in it. So here's all the envelopes. I've been collecting some over time, and you might have different sizes. Now here are my focal images. Now this was just in the bin. I've been able to take them, put them in these plastic envelopes, and keep them in the bin. So they're partially organized. Butterflies with butterflies, faces with faces, dragonflies with dragonflies. So this is focal images. I've got other ephemera. I can do the same. And I'm using those plastic bags. Now, will they last forever? No, but I'm giving them more than one use, and that's a win in my book. Here's another use. You can use them as a palette on your desk or to smoosh with. Here I'm using acrylic paint that I'm watering down, and then I'm smooshing on my substrate. Wipe it off, put it on another color, and away you go. After a while, again, it's going to get too gunged up, too dirty. You'll just throw it out and use another one. But you've used it more than once. And again, that's a win. And instead of using plastic baggies to store your ephemera or buying other things, I can take that money and spend it on other art supplies. Now these 12 by 12 bags from stencils are great when you make collage papers that are really wet. I will link the video where I colorize and design coffee filters, but that is going to be completely wet, and then I can do that, put it on this plastic envelope and move it to the floor or to somewhere else in the room to let it dry on there. I've used this time and time again, so check out that video. Now what about all that paper packaging that comes in the Amazon or other shipments? Don't throw that out. Take the time, unscrunch it, fold it up, and store it. This makes for great collage paper. I can just throw paint down here, leftover paint, and make collage papers that I can rip and use in my art journal and my mixed media projects. But my favorite way of using this is to create texture. You're going to want to crumple it up, crumple it up, crumple it up, open it up, and it doesn't matter if it's white, gray, brown. You just want those wrinkles in it. Then you're going to glue it down to your substrate. This is just a piece of 6x6 mixed media board. but you could do the same on an art journal page or a canvas. I'm covering the whole surface here, but you could only do part if you only wanted texture. Now look at that texture. And it's free. Once it's dry, you just want to cut it. I'm using my X-Acto knife again. You want to make sure it's dry. It's kind of catching there a little bit because I'm not waiting for it to dry. Cut it off, and there you have some perfect texture at it. This is a great way of making faux leather, and I'll link a video where I show that, making it leather. Now here's why I don't worry about the color. You're going to give it a coat of gesso. I'm adding gesso because I like the way the colors blend, the acrylic paint blends on top of it. You could skip this stage and just go right with paint if you wanted. But I like working on a gessoed surface. And once that dries, we are going to colorize it. I'm just using a makeup sponge and whatever colors. Here I'm grabbing red oxide and I believe Prussian blue. And just applying with a makeup sponge. The gessoed surface allows me to blend it wet on wet. It catches in the nooks and crannies and that texture shows through. No modeling paste, nothing else. How easy and quick was this? Then you can, to bring out the texture, get a dark paint or a contrasting. You could go light or darker and rub it gently over the raised areas, and that brings out the texture. Look at that. And for free. Gold goes really nice on top of that for a little bit of shimmer and shine. Look at that. Made a perfect background easily. Now, something else that comes in those packaging, bubble wrap. Save it. I like to cut bubble wrap the size of my gel plate and use it on there. So I'll cut an 8 by 8 or a 12 by 12, whatever size gel plate I have. But for working on a page, I like a smaller, and I'm going to use this as a stamp. Now I used to dip it in paint or use a makeup sponge to put it on, but my new favorite way of getting paint on the bubble wrap is to apply it with a brayer, and there I am just applying it on this background. Lovely. Now I can add a focal image, a sentiment, and I'm done. So save money, save the packaging.